When we hold on to grievance and pain from the past, we keep ourselves from being able to really move into our fullest expression of self. We need to practice forgiveness from the soul recovery perspective, dissipating the energy and releasing the past for good. If you're interested in this profound transformation, I invite you to join me in Colorado the weekend of June 8th and 9th to have an incredible experience with others on this same soul recovery journey. 2 full days of immersion in the soul recovery process where you will indeed leave transformed. You will be able to truly let go of these old pains and step into a new way of being. Check out the show notes for a coupon code and how to register. In this episode, I'm talking about who am I ready to forgive? And it's because I have this new oracle deck, and I love pulling a card and seeing what the universe is trying to tell me. So when I got this message, and on the back, it's a quote from Carl Jung that says, "I'm not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become." And it's around letting go of the past. It's around giving yourself forgiveness and forgiving others. So in this episode, we're looking at how, from the soul recovery perspective, can we be moving forward by letting go of the past? Are we ready to forgive? Are we ready to forgive ourselves? Are we ready to forgive others? Are we ready to let go of all that no longer serves us and choose the life that we choose? Enjoy the episode. My name is Reverend Rachel Harrison, and this is the Recover Your Soul podcast, a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. I started Recover Your Soul after having profound changes in my life from my recovery of alcoholism, control addiction, and codependency. I was guided to share the tools and principles of spirituality and soul recovery to help others transform their lives as mine was transformed. For us to overcome external circumstances, we must first turn the attention to ourselves, focusing on inner change. Positive results in our lives will follow. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast. I am Reverend Rachel Harrison. Thank you for being part of the Recover Your Soul community. If you're here for the first time, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. This community is growing. You are here for a reason. There is a Facebook group to join. There is a monthly soul recovery support group that is free on Zoom on the first Monday of every month. We're here to connect with each other, to learn and grow and expand. We're here to recover our souls. I'm still recovering mine. In this, we're learning how to turn the attention to ourselves and to do our own inner work. When we do our own inner work, it's amazing the changes that happen around us. And we follow this spiritual path to a happy and healthy life, regardless of what's happening in the world or the people or the circumstances in our lives around us. So I'm so glad that you're here and taking part in this really for yourself ability to heal and to let go of the past and to step into your full resourced self. For this episode, I wanted to read out of a new set of oracle cards that I got. And I wanted to do this because I love oracle cards. And I do the tarot, which some people believe in the tarot, some people don't. I just believe that we are connected to something greater than ourselves. And whatever that is for you is what it is for you. I'm not here to tell you what your spiritual life should be. For me, I believe that we are connected to a loving source, to a loving energy, that we are being guided and held, that this curriculum of life is complicated, but that there's always messaging, there's always guidance to lead us into healing and into learning and growth. And so for me, when I do tarot, I'm not a memorizer, so it's so funny. I've been doing it for such a long time, but I still have to read out of the little book. My learning style doesn't allow for memorization, and I've given up on that need to be that way for me to be quote unquote okay or smart or whatever it is. So I get my tarot cards out or I get my oracle cards out, and I use them as a way to connect with myself, that our minds can be so busy and so crazy, and that if I don't take the time to slow down, I love journaling. If you've listened to the podcast, you know I love journaling. and to ask guidance. Even in the New Testament, Jesus says that you ask and you receive. We forget that we need to ask. There are people that believe that the angels are there for us, but that we must ask for their help. We must ask for the guidance of spirit. So for me, these oracle decks or these tarot cards or whatever it is that you like to use to give yourself these messages, some people like doing numbers. When I see a 111 or a bunch of ones, that means something to me. That means that I'm on the track. That means that I'm getting the guidance that I need. And it's just a way to tune in and be present in the moment. So with all of that, I recently got a oracle deck called Soul Truth, Self-Awareness Card Deck. I love it because you just pull a card and then it has what you're supposed to get out of it. And on the back, it actually has what you're going to do about it. So I pulled this card and it said, who am I ready to forgive? Who am I ready to forgive? And I thought that was so beautiful because it really goes along with soul recovery. That the foundation of our inner self healing is the willingness to release, to discharge the energy, the pain, the attachment, the suffering that comes from the attachment to our stories, to our past, to our history, to our old patterns, to our beliefs. And that is surrounded by the need to forgive. And generally, it's surrounded by the need to forgive ourselves first, and then to forgive others. So on the back, it has a quote from Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, and it says, I'm not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become. I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become. And again, this is a foundational piece of soul recovery. The many of you have come through the doors to soul recovery through addiction, either being an addict or because you have someone in life who is an addict. Even if you didn't have addiction, there's dysfunction, there's the mess of childhood, there's the pain of childhood. And all of that says, what happened to me? And many of us spend our lifetimes crawling, clawing our way out of that hole that we believe that we need to live in. That darkness, that belief that what we were told as children, that what we believed and learned as our ways to survive are the truth of who we are. This amazing thing that happened when Carl Jung started looking at psychology and started looking at our psyche, and this was not that long ago. You know, it just blows my mind what's happened in the last 100 years. I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become. You know, I'm lucky. I'm really lucky, actually. I never had any sexual trauma. I didn't have abuse as a child. There are so many of you that write me emails, come to coaching, respond in the Facebook group, that share your stories that just bring so much tenderness and compassion about what we go through as children and what we're working on learning how to step out of. That we are not what happened to us, that we choose who we want to become. But it's not that straightforward. And even though I didn't have those levels of abuse as a child, I still had so many scars, so many difficulties. And recently I've been feeling lonely, actually. I've been feeling the lack of community here physically in my being. I'm so filled up with the soul recovery community. And yet it's different being the leader of the community versus being part of the community. Even though, as you know, we are doing this together. I am not perfect. I haven't figured it all out. Part of, I think, why I resonate with so many of you is because I'm on this journey too. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still learning. But the changes that have happened in me are so profound. And my inner peace is so strong when there wasn't any. When I had so much anxiety and so much sadness and even desires to not live any longer. And I don't feel that way anymore. But what I do recognize, having come out of being an addict myself, and so having patterns and ways that I was living my life that were around drinking as my way of socializing, as my way of having fun and connecting with friends. It's summer, so what do? I want to go out and hang out with people. Everybody wants to go out to the bars and sit outside and have drinks. And that just doesn't appeal to me anymore. And even though I could go be with the people that I used to have drinks with, it's interesting how the conversations just don't appeal to you on the same way that they used to when you were one of the drinkers. And then I also recently left my spiritual community, which was a really big deal for me. I had been attending that church for over 20 years, 24 years actually. I had to make a decision for myself that I loved the people that were there and I had such strong bonds and friendships. But as a spiritual community, it just wasn't aligned with me and providing me the spiritual food that I needed. And that was a big deal to leave that community. I also now don't work someplace where I'm surrounded by a bunch of people. For 9 years, I worked at the home care agency where I was the office manager, and it was tons of people every single day in and out of that office and on the phone. It was such interactions with people. And now I live a very peaceful, amazing, quiet life with just me and Rich, with the kids off in California, grown up and doing their own thing. And my friendship circle changed in the pandemic. We changed how we do things, who we hang out with, where our energies go, really. And we're coming back and trying to figure out, how do we connect with people? What does that all look like? And I also recognize that as an only child, there is still the belief in me that my pain belief says I'm safer by myself, that I'm safer alone. And that's a part of me that I am not what happened to me. I am not the person who got ridiculed as a child and ostracized as a child and teased so mercilessly as a little kid, being this kind of awkward, strange kid, and didn't really have deep friendships until junior high and high school. That really was alone and lonely. And so I've been observing myself lately in the part that says, what do I need to forgive? Who am I ready to forgive? What's going on with me? When we're having emotions that come up, they're telling us something. So for me to just push down and say, it's the weather's been cloudy, it's been rainy, you don't feel as cheerful when it's not sunny. What I'm really wanting to recognize, because I'm in soul recovery too, is what is that part of me that is feeling tender? What is that part of me that is questioning things, that feels lonely, that isn't sure about how to be out in the world? As a spiritual coach, I can support you on your path to make deep and real changes that will bring you a life of peace, happiness, connection, and abundance. Visit the website recoveryoursoul.net to book coaching sessions, read the blog, listen to some of my original music, and subscribe to receive email updates. I think of Recover Your Soul as a community. Follow us on social media, join the private Facebook group, and even our monthly soul recovery support group on Zoom to support each other and connect. For an extra episode each week, become a Patreon member or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If these episodes are helping you in any way and you want to donate, you want to really figure out, how can I support this community and recover your soul, please look at the show notes below. There is a link to be able to donate monthly, $3, $5, $8, or $10. This cost of a fancy cup of coffee would really help support this community and recover your soul. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. So what it comes back to for me is the never-ending layers of the onion that we're pulling back. And then I need to forgive myself for that pain that I felt as a young child and how I put up walls around myself that say, you can come in, but not very far. from those experiences that I had from those other kids when I was growing up. The massive amount of rejection and how painful that felt. You know, when it was my dad's turn to have me on a weekend once a month or so, he always had a different girlfriend. So it always felt like I needed to go someplace else and that I was not as important as I wanted to be, that I wanted to be his main entertainment. I wanted to be special. I wanted to be treated like you didn't see me very much, so can't we spend the weekend together? And that's not how that was. And so my father didn't drink, but he always put his girlfriends first. And I knew that he loved me. So when I look at those situations that I had in my life where I felt uncomfortable outside of my home, living with my mom, with friends, and then when I would go see my dad, I'd feel uncomfortable. And how that's set up for me in terms of relationships and friendships. And even in my relationship that I have with Rich, of how far I'm willing to let him in, because there's some part of me that is still holding on to the past that's afraid I'll get hurt. And we're all afraid we're going to get hurt. When we come to the who am I willing to forgive, who am I ready to forgive, sometimes we need to go way back and apologize to ourselves, to forgive ourselves, not even apologize, but to forgive ourselves for how we felt as those younger parts of ourselves. And then also to recognize and look at the situation that was playing out. Instead of laying blame, because in soul recovery, there's no blame for anyone. There's no judgment for anyone. It's about recognizing your own feelings and coming to terms with the value and the importance of really honoring how those affect you and what stories that they begin to tell you and what belief systems that they bring up for you. So that belief system for me was, I'm safer alone. Even when I was at home, I felt safer in my house alone than I did going out with friends because I was so rejected and so treated like I was so strange. And then when I was with my dad, it felt like I had to be in situations that didn't feel comfortable for me. And I had to learn how to just pretend to be okay when I didn't feel okay. So in reading on in the card, it says, it's time to let go, forgive, and move onward. Is your soul ready to forgive somebody else or yourself? Forgiveness brings sweet release, freedom, and insight. Look at it from their shoes. Notice how you grew, what you learned. Who do you want to become? And how is this resistance holding you from what your soul wants? And I loved that because when I look at those situations in my life and I look at those kids, those other girls in particular that were so harsh to me, what I can see now is I can see how complicated their lives were too. And that they were looking for approval, and that it was easy to put the attention on being harsh to me because then it didn't happen to them. And that I don't know what was happening in their homes. I don't know what they felt like inside of their hearts. I don't know what their inner beings were. I'm sure that they were experiencing pain and confusion just like me. And so if I allow myself to say, I can forgive and I can let go of a grievance or a resentment, that there's guilt or shame here, that I can just touch on those tender places of myself that felt that pain. And I can touch on those tender places for those other children that were trying to maneuver in their life the way that felt safe to them, that they were just trying to figure it out too. And I can forgive my dad, who was just this young man who had a little girl that would come into town on the weekends. And he was wildly independent and he liked women and he liked relationships. And I never think that he thought that that was difficult for me to be in those situations. I think that he was just living his life and doing his thing. And I was just being tagged along. I know for a fact that he didn't feel like it was putting me last. And I know that he loved me. And when we have these situations when we're feeling our feelings as our younger selves, that we want to defend our parents, that even if they did things that were unkind and unacceptable, we still have this part of us that wants to be loyal and defend them. What's beautiful about soul recovery is we're bringing spirit here. We're bringing higher power here. We're bringing in the element of love that accepts and loves everyone and sees us all as whole. And this human experience that we have is complicated for everyone. And these choices that we make about how we interact with people, how we are our best selves, how are we moving to be in relationship, how are we getting our needs met, is a dance that is so complex. But in my belief, Spirit is there holding all of it, encouraging us to follow the guidance to the highest good. And so we're constantly learning and growing. And when we can be in a place where we look at these situations with our parents and we stop feeling like we need to be loyal, and we allow ourselves to just release judgment and say, I'm not actually going to judge positive or negative. I'm going to be neutral in their being my parent. And I'm going to allow myself in my need to heal that I can recognize and feel my feelings without losing that ability to see how hard our parents worked as just being people. And it opens up an entirely new way of being able to experience our childhood and what happened to us. That we are not what happened to us. That we choose who we want to become. And so when I look at this part of me that is feeling isolated, I could fall into that. I could fall into some old patterns, some old addictive patterns, actually, about soothing myself in unhealthy ways. I'm not going to pick drinking, but I could certainly pick shopping or watching entirely too much Netflix or just isolating. But I'm not going to do that because I want to forgive myself for that part of me that's afraid. That part of me that's afraid to go out and make new friends. That part of me that's afraid to step into the unknown because the unknown has always been hard for me. But I can do it. And in that, there's a freedom that comes that's about allowing all of it just to be part of my journey. And that includes the hurts. And it includes the complications. And it includes my desire to want to control and have certainty. It includes the part that wants to not have to step out on that line and put myself out there. But I don't want to be alone. And I don't want to not have fabulous friends. I was watching Queer Eye last night, and I love that show because those men, those 5 men that go in and help people see themselves, they love each other so much and they have such healthy connection. You can feel it. I know that it's television and it's all shown in certain ways, but you can feel their connection and you can feel the depth of change that happens in people. And that's soul recovery, that we learn to see ourselves and experience ourselves and believe in ourselves in ways that we couldn't before because somebody sees you. And so if I don't go out and establish new arenas for myself to be seen, where I can share my story, where I can share my hope, where I can share my fears, then I'll get lost. And none of us deserve to get lost. We get to choose who we want to become. And we need people in our lives to support us and love us. But we don't want to need them in the sense of codependency where we need them to approve of us. We need to love ourselves first. And then those relationships are a blossoming, encouragement, a way to see ourselves stronger, fuller, better by choosing people in our lives who are encouraging and kind and see us whole and don't see us as broken, because there's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. It's time to let go, to forgive, to move forward. Are you ready to forgive yourself or someone else? Forgiveness brings sweet release, freedom, and insight. I read the Course in Miracles, which is one of the most profound readings that I've had to date that has changed my life substantially. Again, I'm not here to tell you what kind of beliefs to have. One of the foundational things that I get from the Course in Miracles is the reminder that forgiveness, true forgiveness, where we don't hold on to the grievance and we can let go of the pain and we can remember that we're all in it together, that we are brothers and sisters, that we are one, that we are all connected to this divine energy. When we can remember that and we can let go of the need for someone to be wrong and we can let go of guilt, there is a freedom and a peace that is what we're all looking for. But it means that we personally have to be the one to choose to let go and accept and be present and to not control. We have to be the ones to say, what happened to me is not who I am. I choose to be me. I choose love. I choose forgiveness. So, thank you for listening to this oracle reading, Who Am I Ready to Forgive? And my working through what's going on in my life right now, forgiving myself and looking at this part of my life that's happening. As a reminder, if you want support on this kind of work, that's what Soul Recovery is, working with me on spiritual coaching. It's amazing how quickly people change their perspective and have those insights and those growths and those ways of being seen and changing how you feel in such short periods of time and working together. It's not a long-term commitment. It's not intended to be a long-term commitment. This is coaching. So you pick what you want to do and we coach it. We get it going. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for being part of my life. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, namaste. Are you wondering, how do I go deeper on my soul recovery journey? Or how do I support this great podcast? Well, here's your call to action. If you're ready for real inner change and would like to work directly with me, visit the website and book a coaching session. I'm here to support you on your unique path. I'm here to help you let go of the past, to deepen your connection with higher power, whatever that is for you, and then to discover and step into a happy and healthy life of your making. You can also become part of the Soul Recovery community. One way is to join the support group. It's the first Monday of every month. It's on Zoom from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and you can register on the website and get your Zoom link. It's the same link every month. We're also on social media. Of course, there's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and now even Insight Timer. Yes, lots of ways to connect. There is even a private Facebook group that will allow you for more communication and conversation about soul recovery with your community. If you'd like an extra bonus episode every Friday, you can become an Apple Podcast subscriber or choose your tier level of giving on Patreon. I'd also love all the listeners to subscribe on the website so that I can keep you informed on what's going on with the podcast, the community, with me, and anything that's up and coming and new and great about soul recovery. Also, if you just take a little bit of time and give me 5 stars, a quick review, share the podcast with friends and family, make sure you're subscribing however you listen to the podcast, we're helping even more people to have soul recovery in their lives. If this podcast is providing you spiritual nourishment and inspiration, thank you for going to the website, pushing the donate button, and giving whatever feels right to you. It means so much to me because I have this mission of sharing soul recovery with the world, and your donations, your bookings, your subscriptions, everything that you do to be part of this community is making all that happen. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. The Recover Your Soul podcast and its content is for educational purposes only and is not allied or representative of any organizations or religions. It's based on the opinions and experience of Reverend Rachel Harrison. Recover Your Soul claims no responsibility to any persons or entity for any liability, loss, damage, or cause alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of its use. Applications or interpretations of the information represented herein. Take what you need and leave the rest.